Hello, Mark. Welcome to the
Hey,
Millionaire By Morning podcast. I'm Rashad Thirlkill, your host. I help entrepreneurs, creators, and visionary leaders scale their impact, grow their personal brand, and align their actions with the version of themselves that success just cannot ignore.
mm,
This show is built around what I call the ascension philosophy: rise in identity, expand in vision, and execute in alignment. Every conversation we have here is designed to uncover your strategies, mindset, and insights so our audience can apply them directly to their own journey.
mm,
A little about me: I've spent 20 plus years working with high performing entrepreneurs, building brands, and creating systems that turn ideas into tangible results.
mm.
Through my work, I've helped clients with branding to grow revenue, scale businesses, create media presence, and I'm excited to share those insights and learnings with our audience while highlighting your journey as well today, Mark.
Wow.
So, just a few housekeeping rules is this is just a conversation, not necessarily scripted. If you need any time to lay off, to pause, we can always edit this podcast and come back to it.
Mm,
At the end of the conversation, I give you a chance to share your message, website, or any project you're working on.
mm.
I also want to mention for anyone that's listening today that the Millionaire by Morning podcast isn't just about sharing stories, it's about helping listeners take actionable steps to grow their businesses, their brand, and impact. So if
Yeah.
you find our conversation valuable, we also provide guests and entrepreneurs with tools to amplify their message, from high conversion clips to promotional ad campaigns.
Well,
We'll make sure to highlight how listeners can connect with you after the episode.
mm.
With that being said, let's jump right into it. I'm
Let's
excited to
do
hear
it.
your story.
I'm excited to share it.
All right, Mark, let's get into it, man. What's going on with you today?
Well, first of all, let me say it's my honor and pleasure to be here, man. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I am looking forward to what we're going to share with your audience because I know between two of us and them, some really good things are going to happen.
That is so awesome, man. What you bring to the table today, and thank you for being here and taking your time out. You could have been doing anything other than being here with us today. So thank you.
My pleasure.
I have looked into your website, checked out the things that you do, and I know that you are going to be uh, positive, a benefit, and be able to uh, share your knowledge so my crowd and my listeners will be able to take something away from this interview.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna start it off like this, man.
Okay.
When were you bit by the entrepreneurial bug?
That's a funny question. You know, Shot, I'm not sure, but in my early 20s, man, I don't know. Probably kind of like you. I'm sort of a. If you said 7 plus 3, I automatically came back with 8 plus 2 or 12 minus 2. I just seem. I don't like using the word spin, but I just seem to be able to see things more than one way. And I realized early on, at some point, I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
At some point, no matter when that point was, you took off.
Yes.
There was a point to where, you know, I like to say it as, how the just the bird finally he either falls out the nest or,
Right.
you know, takes off out the nest, but at some point he learns how to fly.
Right.
So so at some point that's you, right?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
where would you say that you kind of took that on and grasped the situation that this is me and this is, I'm not working for nobody else. This is going to be what it is that I do. And you kind of start helping small businesses out.
Well, let me just go back a little before that. Rashad, I used to be in a niche area of the real estate investment game. In fact, I guarantee most of your audience and yourself remember there was a time you could not turn in America. You could not turn on the television between 1 o'clock in the morning and about 6 o'clock in the morning without seeing some man or woman on there telling you and I how we could get rich investing in real estate with no money, right? This all no money down, creative finance and stuff. Well, I was in a niche of that called paper, which just is a fancy way of saying debt. And so when people couldn't qualify for traditional bank or credit union financing, they would turn to the seller of the property, be it commercial or residential, and ask them to finance some of their equity. They would then hold this paper, this debt instrument, usually as a second deed of trust or a second mortgage, depending on whatever terminology your particular state uses. And they would, in essence, be the bank. And they would start receiving payments, typically monthly payments. I was going to say periodic, like quarterly, but most people, that's not the way it's set up. It's set up quarterly. But the short of it is, within, say, 2 years, 3 years in, Rashad, they'd get tired and they wanted that lump sum, whatever was the remaining balance. And in case, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody in the audience doesn't realize it, whenever you finance property like that, you have in essence discounted your property, because that debt instrument, no matter what the outstanding balance is, you don't get full face value. You're going to get a discounted price. Now, Rashad may pay more than I pay. In reality, I had investors. It wasn't me. But nobody's going to pay you full face value for it anymore. But the short of it is, I was a middleman, a broker, if you will. And I was in front of in between the person who held the note and the investors, because they had the money. And they said, hey, you just be the bird dog. You go find the deals. We'll finance them. And you take a spread. In other words, let's say I offered you a price of $225,000. $60.34. You always wanted to make it sound like it was calculated, right? And they may have said $3,000 more than that price. Well, if you accept it, then I get that balance. And that's how it would work. And you got people on the internet right now, on cable right now. I was going to say hawking, forgive me, Rashad, marketing and promoting this exact same concept that I was doing a long time ago. But the short of that is, the industry was archaic, Rashad. The marketing and the promoting and the advertising was in the Flintstone era. So I started looking outside the industry. And that's how I found some of the legends like Dan Kennedy, the late great copywriting expert Gary Halbert, direct response marketing expert Jay Abraham, and on and on and on and on. It just opened up a whole new world. And a good friend of mine, because what I started doing, man, I started writing about what I was learning, like how to write a headline and how to write a what's in it for me type headline and all this stuff I was learning about marketing and promoting I'd never heard in my life. And a good friend of mine named Bill, he said, Mark, I know you think this paper thing, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, ladies and gentlemen, to this day, right now, in America now. He said, I know you think this is the bomb. He said, but man, I'm telling you, these strategies that you are sharing about how to promote and market this service, you need to be sharing this with small business owners in America. He said, because I'm telling you, they don't know 99% of this stuff. And I hadn't even realized that, Rashad. I go in businesses every day just like you do. And it never dawned on me that these people could use a marketing makeover if they're open. So I sort of slowly transitioned to that. And then a few years later, one of my mentors, in fact, I was just talking to him today, he mentioned that he was going to start a column, a weekly newspaper column. It's going to be syndicated. And he was going to call himself the column was going to be called Ask Mr. Marketing. And I like that. And I said, I'm going to start calling myself Mark Newsome, AKA Mr. Marketing. And that's like the super condensed story, but that's how this came about, where I started focusing on small business owners, service providers, both on and offline, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
So awesome, man. What an awesome story. And if you don't mind, was this pre-digital marketing?
Oh, yes, of course. In fact, you know something? It's weird. I'm glad you said that. So many people are convinced, like for instance, Freddie, if I say what's 1 + 1, they got it in their mind, they say it's 2, but somehow they think if you're not using a calculator, it's not valid. Ladies and gentlemen, Rashad will tell you this. 60% of the stuff they're teaching you about online marketing is started offline. Writing headlines did not start with the internet, ladies and gentlemen. Upsells did not start with the internet. If you're not familiar with that term, once he and I get into it, we'll share it. But my point, a lot of this stuff, in fact, I don't know your age, Rashad, but you might be able to confirm this. I have a niece. She hates old school R&B. And I have to remind her, I say, sweetheart, 40% of that music that these hip hop gurus and legends are doing, that stuff came from my era and your mother's era. It's the music with new poetry on it, right? So it's like this stuff started offline, ladies and gentlemen. I probably now PPC, there are definitely some stuff, FCO and all that search engine optimization, ladies and gentlemen. Forgive me, I'm using these acronyms that Rashad and I would know, but the point is there are definitely some unique things because of the internet, social media. But the basic premise of promoting and marketing and the psychology behind it, that stuff all started offline hundreds of years ago.
So true. So true. Earlier today, I had a podcast with a guy that started advertising. He brought up David Ogilvy. He brought up old school advertising. And that's where he started at. Like,
right.
And it's so, what people don't understand right now is the pictures and the carousels and the video, it's all good, but guess what is still there?
That's
the
right.
Content, the sales content.
Exactly.
Those words are still involved. Right. Advertising, sales letters, and sales funnels.
Yes. We got new words, same concept. In fact, Rashad, I grew up in California. They had a game that, you know, the game where you take the P, you take 3 cards and you flip them, and then you and I have to try to figure out where that is. I always heard that called 3-card Molly on the West Coast. On the East Coast, they call it 3-card Monty. But here's my point. When somebody describes it, I say, okay, is this the thing where you take the P? I don't care what you call it, man. That's old. We've seen that. That's what's going on now. Just like you said David Ogilvy, 99% of people say, who is David Ogilvy? They'd have to Google him. He was an advertising guru. He's a genius. He was a guy that came up with a lot of stuff that some of the modern day gurus just reworded his stuff or just flat out said, I got it from David Ogilvy. But there's still his basic playbook of how you write copy that puts money in your pocket. You're still using his stuff, right?
That's right.
You guys are genius. Yes.
That's right. That's right. Nothing is new under the sun.
Nothing is new under the sun, people. We just got these new names for it, and the younger generation hadn't heard it. But you go back enough and Jesus say, "Oh yeah, we used to call that, whatever."
That's right. Right.
And that don't be put off that. Just not. In fact, I like to say it like this, Rashad. It's to prove it. Oh, I got to share this story, Rashad. Got to share this story. You young NFLers out there, you need to Google the name Vince Lombardi. He was a guy that took the Green Bay Packers from nothing to when they started playing Super Bowls. They used to call it the championship. When the two leagues merged, the AFL and the NFL, they became the Super Bowl when those two teams played in the championship. Well, they said after the Packers started winning Super Bowls, every new camp, they said Vince Lombardi would take a football, Rashad, deflate it, so it had no air in it. He'd stand up in front of the returning veterans and the rookies, and he would say, gentlemen, this is a football, meaning the fundamentals. You get good at the fundamentals, I don't care how you market, the internet, social media, offline, you're going to do okay.
That's right. That's right. If you get good at the basis,
the basic fundamentals, no question. Email is copywriting, is it not? You have a subject line. If that subject line is sexy enough, Rashad and I click on it. If it's not, we don't.
That's right.
It's copywriting. You don't think of that. That's a headline, man.
That's right.
You don't understand that, you're behind the 8 ball. Then when we click it open, we read. Even if it's a video or something, you're going to direct us to the video. That's all persuasive copywriting. The PS, postscriptum, that started offline, people. That stuff is just the fundamentals rebranded, as I like to say. That's what it is.
And I like to tell people this because I'm 20 plus years in marketing. And
Ooh.
the thing about it is if you think about, I tell people all the time, I started in traditional, which means when I was out handing out flyers, I would create these flyers. And when Photoshop was around, I'd create these flyers. I have them printed up. The thing about it is, to this day, I still know my numbers because I know if I passed out this many flyers or I sent this many flyers in the mail,
Okay.
I know exactly what my return was. And so it's the same as now. You
Yes.
put $1 in, get $2 out.
You hope. You hope. I mean, that's really
if that's the if you got the best of the best, but that's after you just know your numbers. And what I know about, if I was to print up 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 flyers, I always knew back then, 20 years ago, what my return on those flyers would be. I knew the percentage.
Exactly.
So now we're looking at we're looking at ad revenue. We're looking at Facebook ads. We're looking at Google ads and emails, opening. You have to know your numbers. So what are you going to do to know your numbers? And that's the name of the game, is knowing those numbers.
Yeah. In fact, you know what? The only thing that's different for what he's talking about, let's say I'm a new marketer. They got software that's going to track that stuff for me now. He and I had to do it old school manually. In fact, it probably was better because, like he said, we had to pay attention. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't spend $1 and get back 20 cents. You're not going to stay in business very long. You'll be upside down and you could be out of business. In fact, I don't know if we're going to have time. So maybe, Rashad, you may have to invite me back. But I got a story just about what you're talking about with flyers that will blow people's mind. I'm talking index card, same concept. But what he's saying is, think about it this way. Let's say he's a retail appliance store. And let's say I'm a barber. He comes into my barbershop one day and he says, "Hey, Mark, ladies and gentlemen, I call this the magic question." Rashad, is it okay if I share the magic question with your audience?
Yeah, let's share the magic question. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not do this with strangers. You only utilize a magic question with somebody, a vendor you already have a relationship with. Rashad says to me, he says, "Mark, first of all, I cut his hair. He comes in, and every time he comes in, we chop it up about sports, women, politics, everything. And then it gets around to business. So he asked me, he says, "Mark, is it okay if I periodically refer you some new customers?" Now, what do you think 99% of the people he asked that question to are going to say?
Yes.
Yes, a resounding yes. So he says, and by the same token, as long as it doesn't take away from anything you're currently doing, then are you okay with periodically returning the favor?
I do it all day.
Of course, John. So the point is, you see, that's the magic question. Because let me share something with you. The magic question is the hinge that swings the door to potential long-term opportunity wide open. Because you know what he just discovered when he asked me, is it okay if he periodically refers me business? Here's what I didn't say, but here's what he understands because he's been doing this long enough. I'm saying, Rashad, not only do you get access to my current network and connections, but the ones I'm going to have tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5 years from now, which are going to be 10 times better, you getting access to that too. Do you see the compound effect of this type of thing? And ladies and gentlemen, don't shortcut yourself by trying to do this, going across the street to the Jamaican restaurant with somebody you don't have a relationship with. No. You start with the vendors and the contacts and the connections you already have. Now, let me just take this one step further because I want them to see this. Here's what he tells me. He says, "Mark, I got this card right here." And it says, get this now. It says, enter his free drawing. There's a strategy for you right there. If you're a retailer, a jeweler, a furniture concern, an appliance store, you need to have a free drawing. And don't be cheesy. He's offering, in his case, a 75, let's use 7,000, math, a $7,000 deluxe home entertainment system, whatever that entails. Now, his hard cost is half, right? So $3,500. That's what he's actually putting up. But the perceived value is, the 75-inch flat screen TV and the computer and all this stuff. So it's sexy enough that when the people walk into his store, and I always suggest, Rashad, they have a 4-way sign in the middle of the store. Music legend Stevie Wonder can't miss. That's how big it is. You know what I'm saying? So here's the point. He says, Mark, when you give these out to the people come in here and get their haircut, when they flip it over the back, it says referred by. He tells me, print your name right there. So I know where this lead came from. Up here, this is side B now. It says, because you are a valued customer, in this case, Mark's Barber, but whoever the retailer, whoever the service vendor he's passing these out to, he says, come to my store, and I have to put a date. Rashad said, Mark, you look on a physical calendar, you look on your phone, and you go 10 days out. Even if the 10th day is New Year's, 4th of July, Chris, I don't care. Whatever that 10th day is, they got a 10-day window. He says, now, you come to my store alone, you save 10%. That's not very sexy. It's not supposed to be. He says, however, simply for dragging a friend who's at least 18, you get up to 40% off, up to $2,000, so X. Now, here's another strategy we don't have time to get into, but Rashad and I would tell you this is one of the keys, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to go, when you get off here, don't do it now. When you get off here with us, go to Google, go to YouTube and put in what is lifetime customer value. Watch a video or two, read a blog post or two. You got the basic concept down, and you are ahead of 97, 98% of people out here trying to run a business. Now,
LTV.
right? Here's the point. He says, Mark, every time one of these gets redeemed, meaning they come to the store and they buy anything, he says, I don't care what they buy on what we call the front end, the first initial sale. He says, up to the first 10, I'm giving you $50. I said, well, okay, that's okay. He says, now from the 11th sale on, it's double, $100. I said, wait a minute, let me get this straight. You tell me the first 10 times when I pass these out to my customers, or whoever I pass them out to, because if I'm smart, I'm going to keep these things with me. And when I go somewhere, but he says, the first 10, you get $50, no matter what they spent now. You get $50 for that customer. I said, okay. He says, from 11 on, I'm doubling it to 100. And I say, really? Two things. First of all, Rashad comes to me and he says, Mark, what kind of TV you got in the house? I said, oh man, I got this 50-inch flat screen TV. He said, how would you like to get a 75-inch flat screen TV? What? He said, I'll do it two ways. I'll give it to you at cost, or as soon as you send me 20 customer X, I'll give it to you free, whatever you want to do. Now, let's fast forward and say now I got the 75-inch flat screen TV. So I got to call my crew up when I'm doing some kind of pay-per-view event, a boxing event or something, right? So Rashad, the Super Bowl Sunday, Rashad calls me up the day before the Super Bowl. He says, hey, man, how many people you got coming over to the house? I said, Rashad, I'm going to have about 15, 20 of us. Half is this group, half is the other team. We're going to have it rocking, man. So he says, I'll tell you what. I want you to call this place tomorrow. $200 worth of pizza and wings. You guys supply your own booze if you order booze, and some liters of those soda on me. What? Now, do you not think some of those people are going to say, yo, Mark, where you get this television from, man? In which case, what am I going to say?
Here's the card.
I'm going to flip them the card. Say, this is my man right here. He will hook you up. If you go there and bring a friend, he puts you into a drawing and you get a chance to win a 75-inch TV. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to follow something here because I'm going to really blow your mind with something because, Rashad is a brilliant marketer. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Here's what he tells. He comes to the shop. He says, Mark, what time do you close? I tell him, he says, tell your other stylists to hang out for about 15 minutes. I got something I want to run by them. And if they're interested, great. If they're not, it's okay. The same thing he offered me, he offers all my stylists, meaning they can get these cards out to their customers. And the first 10, they get $50. Everyone over that, they get $100. I mean, over 10. And he says, now, every week, you guys, to my stylists, every week, whoever leads the pack brings me the most customers, I'll pay your booth rental fee, your chair fee for the week. What? And he tells me, he says, Mark, every time you send me 20 customers in a month, I'll pay your commercial lease. What? He's trying to get us to hustle. Because here's what he understands. Rashad, you finish this statement for me. You and I drive through this iconic fast food restaurant. They're all over the world. You drive through and they say, may I help you? You say, yeah, I have the quarter pounder with cheese and the strawberry shake. And that cashier, all of 17 to 25, they're going to automatically come back with the 6 most powerful words. Excuse me, the 8 most powerful words in marketing. I'm going to share 6 with them right now. They say, would you like fries with that? Boom. What just happened?
That's the upsell.
They did not have to go back on outrageously expensive national TV, national radio, no full page ad, no half a page ad, the throwaway guide, no billboard. That 6-word phrase just put a little more money in their pocket. And since Rashad's got the stock, he goes on the internet and found out the stock ticked up. Oh, they've lowered expenses and simultaneously raise revenue. Now you said, well, wait a minute, Mark, you said the 8 most powerful. You shared 6. Let's try it again. So let's see if I went to public school, Rashad. I graduated. Let's see if there's something wrong with my math. Would you like fries with that? That's 6. Okay, Einstein. Well, what's the other 2? 10 to 40% of the people worldwide, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, take them up on this upsell. Well, guess what they did? They didn't sit on their laurels. They got their best Harvard educated marketing geniuses, men and women in the room, said, how can we upsell our upsell? And they said, what about this? When you say yes to I like fries, and notice, ladies and gentlemen, when Rashad upsell, we usually discount, Rashad, right? We offer you something extra and say, hey, take advantage of this limited time and you can get it for X% off. They're not discounting anything. They're selling it for retail. But then they come back and they say this. 2 more powerful words. Supersize you, and boom. Just like that. Another X% spent a little more money and the stock ticked up a little higher. And I like to say it like this, Rashad. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why the executives of this iconic fast food place, they live in some of the biggest houses. Notice that's S, plural, houses. They drive some of the nicest vehicles, S, vehicles, plural, and their kids and grandkids attend and graduate some of the most prestigious universities on the planet because of those 6 words. Now, please, ladies and gentlemen, don't insult Rashad and myself by saying, Mark, I don't sell hamburgers. This ain't about selling hamburgers. This is about whatever products or services you have, you find an accompanying product or service that's logical. If they got this, in other words, if you're getting peanut butter, you might need jelly, right? So something that's logical, and you offer it to them while they're hot. I like to say it like this, Rashad. An upsell in my mind is this. You're walking down a hill. It's not a steep hill, but it's got an incline. All I got to do is just nudge you, and you're going to move forward. That's the power of upselling. You are getting them while it's hot. And while I'm at it, Rashad, is it okay if I share them an additional strategy they can put on top of this to make even more money?
Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's say Rashad has got let's say I have a mail order division to my company. In other words, people can order stuff and I send it out to them first class. I'm talking about my customers now, not my prospecting. Rashad comes along and says, hey, Mark, would you like to add additional 25% more profit to what you're doing? I'm like, yeah, what, man? He says, you sell widget A, I sell widget B. And I said, yeah. He says, man, I don't want to go on radio and TV and pay-per-click and all that crap. Why don't you just put this market tested, that's the key, coupon, it's time sensitive, put it in the order with your outgoing order. Anybody, and it's coded, so I know it comes from you. Anybody who sells, I'll give you 25%. And he says, Mark, when you reach a certain gross amount of income from me, I'll raise it even higher. Rashad wants the first end. I mean, he'll give up some of that front end because he's going to net 100% of what we call the back end. In other words, all the additional sales. He's going to get the testimonial. He's going to get the referral. He's going to get all those additional sales. And when they order from him the first time, he's going to have what we call an upsell or a bounce back offer. What the heck's a bounce back offer, Mark? It just says, hey, come back and do business with me again before this particular time, if it's strictly online, and I'm going to do something for you. Or if he's got a physical store down the street, he says, hey, when you come to my store, bring this coupon, you'll save X, but if you drag a friend who's at least 18, you get X plus. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't see the potential fortune you're sitting on, shame on you. Because this money's out there, Rashad, is it not?
It's money out there. And
it's all over the place.
It's only thing that's changed is the terminology, like you said. It's been there.
That's it. It's been there the whole. In fact, Rashad, before we run out of time, bro, I have to share. Rashad, is it okay if I share with them probably an 8-figure marketing strategy?
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, follow this. There is a certain young lady, her boyfriend, I don't know if it's her boyfriend or her husband, he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a tight end, and they're about to have a baby. You guys know who I'm referring to, right? So, but you could use Queen Bee, Beyonce, this would work. So let's just use Beyonce then. Beyonce goes out on a world tour. At intermission of every show, and she's going to pay a venue that's going to have anywhere from 20,000 to 100,000 screaming fans every venue. And she's on a world tour for 2 years. In the intermission of the show, on the Jumbotron, the MC comes out and says, hey, how y'all, this crowd fighter, how y'all doing? You having a good time? Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the Jumbotron. There's going to be a pimped out picture of an Escalade. I mean, everything that you could want. This thing retail for 180 G's. We talking pimped out. He says it's going to be 2 grand prize winners every show. As long as you're over 18. A male and a female. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have time, but there's a strategy right there with your free drawing. You can segment it from the jump, male and female. Because see, when you say free drawing, that means everybody's piling in. What's the odds? But if you say 1 male grand prize winner, 1 female grand prize winner, then they both feel like, hey, they got a shot at that grand prize. But I digress. Anyway, she builds this humongous, they got to go to a website to enter to be eligible to win this car. Now, she comes back to America after her 2 years. And let's say she originally had 8 million people on the list and 1.5 million have unsubscribed. So she still got 6.5 million people, right? Her people reach out to Netflix and say, hey, how would you like to get some new customers with no upfront cost? And Netflix says, excuse me, what? She said, here's what I want you to do. My beehive, my subscribers, my peeps, I want you to give them a subscription. The one new customers only now. I want you to give them a subscription to Netflix. But I want you to roll back the price to 5 years ago. And I'm like, oh, okay. She said, remember, you're not paying anything up front. You're not advertising to get these people. But here's how it's going to work. Let's say you're going to charge. I have Netflix right now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's say the price 5 years ago, I don't know what it is. This is just a concept. Let's say it was $10 a month. She says, you charge them $7. It's okay. How long? She says 36 months. They say, okay, so we're going to net $36, $7 for, say, let's say 5 million of these subscribers take her up on it out of the 6.5 million. So 1.5 million don't, or they don't qualify, but 5 million people take her up on it. And she says, you're going to charge $7. So they say, yeah, but B, you said $10. And she says, right. And she winks. Where do you think the other 3 goes? And they say, oh, we got you, girl. She says, now, her new CD is about to drop. She goes back into, Jay-Z is producing it. She goes back into the studio and she cuts this 20-minute video where she's showing all the stars that are going to be on this video, this new CD. And she says, ladies and gentlemen, I want to share something with you. In the next 36 months, I am going to gross $105 million. I'm not going on tour. I'm not dropping a new CD. I'm not selling merchandise. That's all bonus. She said, but when the camera turns, Rashad, she said, but I want to introduce you to the gentleman who turned me on to this concept. And there's yours truly sitting there. Meet Miss Mark Newsome, Mr. Marky. Ladies and gentlemen, am I going to get some phone calls?
That's right.
Is corporate America going to want to talk to me? And so let's say Rashad, because let's say Rashad knew somebody that knew Beyonce. So he's in. I got to cut him in. But here's the point. After 36 months, Netflix says, what happens? She says, oh, anybody wants to keep it? It reverts back to whatever the current retail price is. She says, and instead of at $3, now you pay me $1. But here's the part that I forgot to mention. Beyonce says, I'm only going to take $2.50. Well, that leaves 50 cents, doesn't it? She says a quarter of that 50 cents that's remaining, Mr. Marketing gets that. I'm happy. 5 million subscribers a month, 0.25 cents. Yeah, I'm real happy. What happens to the other 25? She says, oh, I'm going to put a bunch of charities names in a bowl, and every month on Facebook I'm gonna go live. I'm gonna blindfold myself. I'm gonna reach in there, and whoever's name comes out, I'm donating that 25% to charity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what could be done when you start thinking about possibilities. And to piggyback off of that, Rashad, I got to share this story, ladies and gentlemen. Rashad and I are driving across the desert. The hottest day of the year. We have no air conditioner in the car. Ladies, don't ask why we would do that, but that's what men do. See, women are smarter, Rashad, so they would be in an air conditioned car. He and I are in a non-air conditioned vehicle. He's driving. I'm sitting in the passenger side. I'm miserable. I'm complaining. I roll down the window finally in frustration, and I say to Rashad, man, look at all that cactus. And Rashad is smiling. And I'm looking at him like, what is his thing? Ladies and gentlemen, you know why he's smiling? Because he sees Las Vegas. Now, if you're wondering what is the point of that story, sometimes it's impossible to see opportunity even when it's right in front of you if you don't have the right vision. So if you're sitting here now saying, I can't get a loan, no, you got the wrong vision. Opportunity is everywhere. And this is what Rashad and I were talking about before we actually went on. And I told him when he said what he said about attitude, I said, man, I got to find a way to throw this in when we're talking live. It's all about the attitude, people. And with the right attitude, we can see. I like to say like this. We've lost our MacGyverism, Rashad. You know what I'm saying? You watch MacGyver, he could take a balloon, a baby crib, and something else and create a nuclear bomb. And you're like, how? Because he's thinking in possibilities.
Yeah.
You and I think. In fact, let me just double back because I want you people to really see this, Rashad. They probably don't see it. And I don't mean that from an arrogant standpoint, ladies and gentlemen. He and I are in marketing. So we say 7 plus 3, but we automatically see 8 plus 2, 9 plus 1, 20 minus 10. That's what we have to do. There's something else about you that Rashad, he's the marketing savvy retailer. He says, Mark, listen, I don't know if you've ever to go in here and get a loan, man. He said, but you know how they feel about small business. I'm like, yeah, man, tell me about it. He says, do you realize what I'm offering you here and your crew? If you start passing these out, take them everywhere you go. Now, to me, not so much for my stylist. He says, Mark, you could do enough of these once you know what your ratio is. Let's say it's 20%. For every 100 I pass out, 20 are going to redeem. He says, do you realize if you put 20,000 or let's say 10,000 of these out here, that's 2,000. 20,000 is 4,000. What you get paid on those 4,000, you don't need a loan from a bank. Hello. You
All
see what
right.
I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen?
That's
So
right.
there's opportunity out here galore. In fact, if you're right now, if you're saying, okay, I looked into this internet thing, I looked into this AI thing, and I still don't see my jam, I would suggest for you to take this concept that I'm talking about, where you become a commissioned affiliate agent to a business you trust now, because you might send a business, they don't pay you, but I'm saying like a local retailer, you have them set this up and just start taking them with you. If you got a job right now, take them to your JLB. And in fact, you tell the retailer, look, man, it will look good if you hook me up with this television and the computer and all this stuff at cost. So when they come to the house, they see it. And then I say, hey, this guy, he's doing the do. They come to you, you pay me. And I don't want to sound like multi-level here, Rashad, but ladies and gentlemen, you could blow this thing up like nobody's business. In fact, if you're a retailer out there, a jeweler, a furniture concern, or an appliance center, please reach out to us because we got something for you.
Referral and affiliate that's the way to go. No skin in the game. All you need is conversation. Conversation rule the nation.
In fact, Rashad, you set me up. If you were a point guard, you'd break John Stockton's record with these setups. But he's just said something, ladies and gentlemen. Let me share one of the most powerful, hands down, marketing tools and strategies. Anybody that can speak the language, I don't care what part of the world you're in. I speak English, but I mean, I don't care what your language is. It's a 3-word acronym, Rashad. FYL. Can I share with your audience the amazing FYL system?
Yes, you can.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, maybe if you went to Harvard or Brown or Yale or any of these other Ivy League schools, this might be a little too primitive to you. But let me share with you what the amazing F period, Y period, L period word acronym stands for. Flap yo lips. You understand what he just said? That's the universal language. Talk. Knowing what to say and how to say it, it can open doors, people. Yes. I'm here to tell you, we are here to tell you, it can open some doors for you.
That's it. That's it, man. Hey, Mark, man, hey, we're going to leave off on that. What you and I have to do, we have to set another conversation. This was good. Yes. This was great. This was coming from a fellow marketer. So I enjoyed every minute of it. But we got to set another one, just so we can showcase and highlight your business, because you gave up plenty game. You know what I'm saying?
I sincerely hope so. That was the plan. Okay.
Yeah, you did that, man. So anybody listening, they definitely picked up jewels and gems on that one.
And we just scratching the surface, people.
We just scratching the surface.
Trust me.
Yeah, we got to run this back. So how can they find you? Just, so they can do their due diligence. How can people follow you and find you?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's 2 places. My cyber home, my blog, WordPress blog, YOU, don't skip any letters, no hyphens, no that. YOU can, CAN, market, MARKET, online, ONLINE, now, NOW.com. You can market online now.com. I promise you, I'm going to make 2. I hope I don't turn anybody off, Rashad, but I have to say this. Ladies and gentlemen, here is my pledge to you. If you go to my blog and read at least 3 blog posts, and hopefully in different categories or any one category, if you don't come up with at least 3 original can-do ideas, I'm not your guy, unfortunately. I'm just not. But I will promise you, if you have any creativity in your body, you're going to find something, say, okay, he said 8 plus 2, but I see 25 minus 15. Conceptually, it's the same thing. So you do yours, I'll continue to do mine. Rashad will continue to do his. There is more opportunity out here, ladies and gentlemen. Do not let anyone kid you than you and I will ever be able to take advantage of, period. But
there is. I'm glad you said it. Down south, what they like to say, what I've always heard is that there's more than one way to skin a cat.
That's
Right.
it. That's it. In a nut, that's the whole premise of where he and I are coming from. See, most of you guys are hitting the wall because, okay, you tried that. In fact, the late Godfather of Soul, Rashad, you remember that one he put out? He said, if you don't get the first time, back up and try it again. Okay, so just find another way to get to that place. And I like to say, marketing is idea currency. It's never going out of style, ladies and gentlemen, ever. The vehicle may change, direct mail, internet, radio, TV, but marketing, the basic premise and concepts don't change. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness, because that's the way that stuff sells.
That's it. And it's going to always be the way, man. Don't worry about it. In fact, and here's the other thing before we run out of time officially. Please don't get this in your mind because you're listening to this. Oh, well, everybody else heard the same thing. 99% of them aren't going to do anything. So you be part of that 1% that does. And
that's the thing about it. That's the thing about it. And I'm going to say this and we'll get out of here. But you just brought up a very good point. And you said you didn't want to sound like a multi-level marketer.
Right.
I have to say that even with multi-level marketing, a lot of people get in that and sold into it. But I have to say, even with that, it teaches you marketing.
Yes.
Right? So it's based on people who actually do the deed.
That's it.
That's what it comes down to.
And in fact, what's the old saying, Rashad? It's not called network sitting. It's called network marketing, meaning you got to be proactive, man.
Yep. That's right.
My friend, I'm you know what? I'm going to hold you to this. I definitely want you to invite me back because we got a whole lot more to share with you.
Yeah, we have more. I can tell it seemed like we was talking for 5 minutes and it already been about 50. So,
wow.
Time just flew by. So I can tell we have a lot more to talk about and dive into. But as far as tonight, I want to thank you for blessing my crowd and, my listeners with your knowledge and, bringing the business.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a two-way street. I'm getting exposure to some of you never heard of Mark Newsome, Mr. Marketing. And I hope this won't be the last time our paths cross. So it's a two-way street. We're both getting out of it. Rashad, as soon as you send me those links, I'm going to be black. I'm going to put this. Is this going to be on YouTube, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. I will be embedding this episode in future blog posts. I'll get reels set up. You're going to be doing yours. You be sharing on LinkedIn. I'm going to share it on LinkedIn. Ladies and gentlemen, are you on X?
Yes. Not very active. Not active on X, but I'm there.
We're going to have this stuff all over the place, and hopefully we're going to get some business out of this thing.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I have... and I'll give you, say goodbye to my crowd. And then, you and I, we can wrap up at the end of this after recording. But I'm pretty sure the people will see us back together again.
Sounds good to me. I'm looking forward to it.
If you guys are listening, and this is a very important conversation because if we're the Millionaire by Morning podcast, yes. But my thing is marketing. That's where I come from. That's what I do. And that's what I teach. So this was an exciting episode for myself and to have a fellow marketer on here with me. I hope you guys got everything possible out of this episode that you possibly could. And I just need you to remember to continue to make moves, make money so you can make meaningful memories.
Sounds good.
And I'll talk to you next time.